Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Prime Focus, the program that spotlights issues of concern to individuals, families, and communities, bringing greater awareness and education with a view to improving the lot of many through anticipated positive actions. Again, thank you for joining us tonight, and we're in for a super exciting episode. And if you haven't already done so, please share this link with other people so they can also join us in the house today. Today, we're going to be looking at a very important topic of concern to so many people across the world, and to those of us who live particularly in the Western world. The matter is going to be discussed tonight of prime importance. Tonight's topic is all about dealing with drugs, drug misuse, abuse, and addiction, and related issues that concern them. And I have an interesting expert in the house because he's an expert in two dimensions. And I'm going to use an electronic introduction first, and then I will bring him into the studio, and I'm going to let him flow with everything that he's got for us tonight, and then we will also throw in some questions. So if you've got any questions as he carries along, please drop them in the chat. Burning things relating to yourself or others in the community as well. Dr. Niyi Opaleye is a seasoned research scientist currently employed as a protein chemist at a pharmaceutical company. In addition to his laudable scientific career, he has dedicated a whopping 2 decades of service as a special constable with the Kent Police. Dr. Niyi was a recipient of the esteemed Lord Ferrers Award for his contributions to policing, and that same year he was honored as the Special Constable of the Year in Kent, in the UK. Dr. Nee is a devoted family man guided by unwavering faith and a deep commitment to moral values. He says being a special constable has been fulfilling, knowing he plays his part in improving lives and creating real change, whether it's safeguarding a family by removing an aggressor, getting dangerous weapons or drugs off our streets, diffusing potentially violent situations, or simply connecting with the community through approachable street patrols. Yeah, I know the technology is running a bit slow, but thank you, Dr. Niyi, for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure to have you with us in the studio.
It's a pleasure to
Right,
be here, sir.
right. It's just a wonderful thing to be able to get you. I've had a brief chat with you, and I've just been blown away by the different things that you have been sharing already with me. So I'm super excited myself, not just those who are going to be listening in tonight. Before I get to some question areas, of course I'm going to let you flow. I just wanted to throw in this bit here. First of all, research scientist, seasoned research scientist, and then a policeman. What's the connection?
Actually, very little. So the way you can understand the position of a special constable is if you've been watching uh, Marvel comics or DC, or you reading DC books where you talk about I don't know, a fictitious story of Batman during the day and Bruce Wayne during the day and Batman, crime fighter during the night. I
Yes.
I guess this is exactly what being a special constable affords.
Mhm.
So being a special constable means you are a police officer. It means you have the full powers of a regular police constable. The only difference is it is voluntary. You don't get paid for it. You get
Mhm.
reimbursed for any out of pockets, any out of pocket spending. You're equipped the same way, trained the same way. Responsibilities are the same, and you can be from any walk of life. So
Wow.
you can be a pastor and be a special constable. You can be a doctor and be a special constable. You can be a bus driver, be a special constable. You
Wow.
can be a I know a guy who used to be a special constable and was a professional wrestler. Yeah,
Ooh.
this is what it affords you. There is almost no limits. Yes, there are certain professions that might be considered a bit of a conflict of interest when it comes to the role itself. Having said
Mm,
that, most you can be from any walk of life. You
mm.
can be a teacher, you can be anything, and you can be a special constable at the same time.
Wow.
So if you are the kind of person who believes we don't have enough police officers, if
Mm,
you're the kind of person who believes we need more hands to protect the community, if you're the kind of person who believes that we the police is underfunded and we need more help in that case, but you rather not complain about it and do something about it, yeah.
mm,
And um, special constabulary allows you that opportunity to do something about it without
mhm.
living or changing your career.
Wow. Well, I guess that's an invitation to others to also be able to offer their services to the community. Wow. Thank you, sir, for this service that you offer to our communities and others like you. Just wanted to ask very quickly. I did see your face on the Kent Police website. And I think in celebration of Black History Month in the UK. That was interesting when I came across your photo there. How did having your face on there make you feel?
Um, proud, I must say,
Okay.
um, appreciated,
Hmm.
acknowledged. So it's one thing to be working and be making a difference. So because so sometimes with this with the advent of social media, they kind of encourage us to post things about positive things about what we're doing.
Hmm.
And sometimes I find myself posting things on Twitter. I think the last so a while ago I posted I was coming to the end of a night shift,
Hmm.
and I have done quite a lot. I think I arrested somebody that day. I stopped a fight that day. I took a crime report that two crime reports that day, and I listed all the stuff I have done, and I went, yeah, um,
Wow.
well deserved rest.
Hmm.
It's okay to pat yourself on the back, but when somebody does it for you, it kind of it goes a long way. And
Hmm.
and that is the way I see me being featured on the Kent Police website as part of the Black History Month.
Okay.
So it was like me being having my back patted, and it shows that the people I work for and the people I work with appreciate it.
Hmm.
And yes, it's good to be acknowledged.
Awesome. 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 Wow. Well, I'm going to let you go first. Having listened to you, I just knew there was so much there. I don't want to interrupt you. I'll come to a point where I may throw in some questions, but I just wanted you to just go with whatever it is that you have. Obviously, with 20 years experience, and I'm pretty excited because you also come with that scientific aspect to things as well. We're going to be talking about drugs and all that, so you have the benefit, even though you said you're not related, you have the benefit in this particular scenario of also being able to look at the shall I say the chemical uh, issues that also happen with it in a person's body, right? So, Dr. Nee, I'm going to let you go.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I am going to start by sharing my screen, and please let me know if you can see my screen. Uh, please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see the screen. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mhm.
So first, I like to apologize for my the picture. It looks like the light is behind me, and I can see that my face is a bit dark. I'm used to using this meeting to take daytime meetings where the light, the natural light comes in through
That's
the
right.
window rather than. So I please accept my apologies. This is something I will
Mm.
have to improve on. And
No, that's fine. I think we are raring to go with the information. Maybe if you can put it on the full screen like you've just done. Yes.
okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to talk about drugs in a drug addiction. Um, so I have divided this talk into four parts. The first bit, I'll be talking about the law, and this is how the law defines what misuse of drugs is and how drugs are categorized and why they are categorized.
Mm.
And I think a good way to talk about drug misuse is to talk about the myths. What are the things that people believe about drug users and drug addicts, which are untrue? And I will discuss each bit briefly. And hopefully, by the end of that session, I will have corrected a few things.
Mm.
And also, very briefly, I will throw a few statistics at you. And the reason for this is just to show us numbers on how prevalent this is. And also, I will show another set of statistics that is just to prove a point in terms of how family support also does help with this kind of situation people are. And then I will talk very briefly on what people can do, especially I know in that session is actually in my mind it was actually meant to be directed at teachers, communities, and parents, but you will find out that is actually more to parents. So please, wherever it does concern you, please use it. And then finally, I will talk about something that is kind of common in the news recently, county lines. And I will end that section by talking about what we can do if we find we have children, dependents, or somebody we know caught up in this kind of situation. What are the things we can do to help them out? And hopefully, um, uh, take some questions. Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start by the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971. Now, this Misuse of Drugs Act covers controlled substances, which means uh, any substance that is called controlled, that is classified as controlled. And these are drugs, illegal drugs. Now, we have legal drugs, which is the reason why in this country a lot of drugs are prescribed. Now, if that drug is prescribed to you, it is legal. It is if it is not prescribed to you, it could be illegal. And if it is prescribed to you and you decide to pass it on, that also could be illegal. So the control substance covers all illegal drugs and the in this case, as I've just defined it, explained it very briefly, legal drugs. Okay. So the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971 classifies drugs into three classes. So you have a Class A drug, you have the Class B drug, and you have the Class C drug. And these drugs are classified based on two reasons. The classification is based on how dangerous these drugs are, and they are how dangerous they are uh, if you consider how dangerous they are to a person, to an individual, or to the society as a whole. When you have certain drugs, certain criminality comes with it. So that is what I meant to as uh, uh, being dangerous to the general society as a whole.
Mm.
So so you probably have heard in the news where the newscasters says Class A drugs or Class B
That's right.
drugs and
Yeah.
Class A drugs are considered the most dangerous, and they are the ones with the most criminalities attached to them. they're the ones with the most serious effect. They're usually the most addictive. And unfortunately, the only reason why we have a proliferation of this kind of business is because of the high addictiveness of the drug. And it is something we're going to discuss because sometimes it is not the addict's fault. The ability to get out of this kind of addiction is not as simple as we sometimes see if we don't have any direct uh, uh, connection to
The
such.
person. Yeah.
What the Misuse of Drugs Act also does, it stipulates the level of punishment. So it is illegal to possess these drugs. It is illegal to possess with intent to supply. The difference between possession and possession with intent to supply is quantity. So if a police officer or somebody in authority finds somebody in possession of drugs and arrest them, they will arrest them with possession. However, if you have lots of it on the person, then you will say, okay, this person is not just in possession because they use it; they are actually selling it, and that makes the punishment go up. So the person who intends to supply, the punishment is a lot more serious than the person who is just in possession of it. And you can see the reason. I mean, the reason why is a little bit obvious. And this is one of the reasons why when a police officer suspects somebody of being in possession of drugs or finds somebody with drugs and takes the drugs off them, they will still search them. So the law allows the police officer to search them to find more, because at that point in time, the police officer wants to establish, is this person a dealer or this person is just a user or supplier. Also, sometimes it could be a case of finding the drugs on the person, a few bags, which is consistent with the quantity a user will have. But then in the same bag, you find skills, you find mobile phones, you find SIM cards. Then you might start thinking, hold on a minute, maybe this guy has just finished selling all the stuff he's got on him. So he might be a dealer. So in that case, it's not the amount of drugs that makes the person possessing with intent to supply. It is also the other items you found with them. Anyway, I digressed. The Misuse of Drugs Act, what it does is it stipulates the offense. In other words, it makes it illegal to possess with intent to supply, to supply, to manufacture it, and the law also stipulates the punishments. So, like I said, the person who is making it and the person supplying will be punished more stringently than the person who just is a user and happen to possess. So that is how that particular law works. So moving on, examples of class A drugs. It will be this kind of things are really common because they're all over the movies, they're all over the news. You're looking at crack cocaine, you're looking at cocaine, you're looking at heroin, you're looking at LSD, you're looking at MDMA and fentanyl. LSD and MDMA, these are party drugs. They're quite common among clubbers. Heroin and cocaine are highly addictive with a lot of criminality attached to it. People who end up with crack cocaine and heroin generally start with the party drugs. And then there's this new one called fentanyl, which is increasingly popular. And this is a particularly nasty drug because you don't even have to sniff it. You don't have to You don't have to inject it. It can be absorbed through the skin.
Wow.
So yeah, we've been told we have to be really careful when we're searching people as police officers. Sometimes because there's a risk um, of you touching these things, and you basically can just get high simply because you touched it, and that's why it's a standard procedure for police officers to wear gloves when they're carrying out such searches. So this are class A drugs, and this class A drugs, the possession, um, supply or intent to supply, manufacture carry um, the greatest punishment. Then there are examples of class B drugs. In fact, if you go to the government website, I think is gov.uk, there is actually a long list of all the known drugs. Uh, so in class B, you have things like amphetamine, cannabis, codeine, and ketamine. Codeine is a painkiller, which
Hmm.
when people get it is usually something you get with a prescription. Cannabis is known by so many names. Weed is someone known as weed, known as ganja. Um, it comes in a resin. It comes people smoke the leaves. It comes in a resin. It comes purified to an extent, and people will mix it with tobacco or just smoke it on its own. We've been there have been this has improved over the years, so you have the very strong ones which are imported from the West Indies, and they are we'll talk about it further on, but it's uh, people think it's not a there's only one advantage to it, but people just think it's not as horrible as other drugs. But depending on the situation you're in, it could be worse. Uh, you have ketamine. Ketamine. People say this is actually a horse tranquilizer. It's actually i- calling it a horse tranquilizer is considered an exaggeration, and the reason for that is ketamine is a painkiller which is used in humans and also by veterinary doctors. So yes, it's partially correct that it is a horse tranquilizer because they do use it, use them on horses and animals generally. But it is still dangerous and it's
Hmm.
still addictive. And then you have class C drugs, which are um, they will be considered not as dangerous as the others, but they're quite dangerous. So two examples of what I showed here: anabolic steroids. This is where people want to develop muscles, and basically you want to do less workout, but you want a lot of muscles to develop as a result of little workout. And the way to do that is you stimulate your muscles using anabolic steroids. In other words, you put in chemicals which will signal for your muscle to basically build up more and build basically.
Is that why this is forbidding in athletics and then other sporting events as well?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So it's forbidden for two reasons. One, it is a form of cheating. In other words, you get more muscles with less work.
Hmm.
So a person who is legitimately putting in the effort will not be able to have as much muscles as you,
Hmm.
especially in sports where muscles are needed, whether it is
Hmm.
wrestling, weightlifting, and stuff like that. Secondly, it's also health. There are also serious health problems attached to it. So if it is allowed, you don't want somebody to die of a weak heart or a heart attack simply because they want to excel in a sport.
Mm.
So that's the reason why it has not been encouraged.
Okay.
And the sport industry, unfortunately, have to be a bit more uh, creative compared to governments. And the reason for that is a lot of this anabolic steroids and this kind of drugs are being made, designer drugs are being made with the intent of them being able to evade the test.
Mm.
So while I can assure you somebody's in the middle of a research now on making this kind of anabolic steroids that will evade the next, that will evade the available tests. So it is so the long-term use of these things are associated with uh, all sorts of issues, ranging from mental, ranging from heart, ranging for reproductive, all sorts of issues that come with the long-term use of anabolic steroids.
Mm.
Then there's GHB, which is known as a rape drug, which date rape drug,
Mm.
which has the effect of causing people to just be out of control and lose memory of it is a very, very nasty drug. If you ask me, I'm not sure why it is a class C drug, but it is a really horrible drug. Okay, what I'm going to do very briefly is talk about the class. I'm just going to use an example, class A drug, which is either cocaine or heroin. And long-term use and general use, what it does, it causes very serious deterioration in the brain, the white matter of the brain, and this affects ability to make decisions, ability to control behavior, ability to handle stressful situations. So these drugs are known to give what we generally call the high. And why do people use them? Because they are in stressful situations, it allows them to handle those stressful situations. Unfortunately, while it is doing that, it also affects their height. It also affects their ability to make decisions.
Mm.
Now, the problem is at some point in time, they'll have to come down. And this is where the problem is. And this is where this is what makes these drugs highly, highly addictive.
Mm.
So there's this thing called an increase in tolerance. So every time these drugs are being used and you get the high, the next time you use it, you will need a higher dose than the last time to get that same high.
Mm.
And the more you use it, the more you need it. And I have seen so many movies. I've read so many things about people um, getting drugs until I was on. I didn't. It didn't. It didn't occur to me how serious this is until a day when I was in hospital once, and there was this guy who came. Who was in the same ward as me, but he woke me up in the middle of the night. He was in pain. He was writhing, literally moaning and groaning and writhing in pain. He was a drug addict that needed a next fix.
Mm.
So they couldn't find a space for him in one of those detox wards. So they brought him to the general ward. And what he was going through was physical pain. So we're not even talking, the mental addiction, and this is where the body. Because the body was used to getting this drugs, when it doesn't get it, it undergoes physical pain.
Mm.
So an addict does not have, almost does not have a choice. It is a very, very horrible position to be. And when the pain kicks in, they will do anything to get those drugs.
Mm.
Uh, some people will not even feed their own children to get their fix for the day. That there are people who will not eat. A drug addict will rather not eat, will rather have that drug. So it is a very, very horrible position to be. Uh, as an example of a Class C drug, I will talk very briefly about cannabis. Um, reason why I talk about this is quite common, much more common than you know. Now, for those of you who know what it smells like, then you will know how common it is. I'll be going through the town center, even here where I live, and there'll be somebody smoking it there, and it's that blatant. Now, the thing about cannabis, the only, I won't call it an advantage, the only thing about it is that it is not addictive. Unlike, unlike even nicotine, cannabis is not considered that addictive. However, if you're used to the relaxation, the muscle relaxation it gives you every time you take it, that itself can cause a form of addiction because now you want to feel that to somebody taking it is that kind of trip it gives them. So that could be a form of addiction a person could create. Now, while scientists are not actually sure whether this drug is capable of initiating psychosis, it is known to have a direct link with psychosis and schizophrenia. Now, schizophrenia has a genetic component to it. We know this. However, there's a possibility that the use of cannabis brings up this schizophrenic manifestation. So, in other words, if somebody has a genetic disposition to it, the use of this drug will bring it out.
Mm.
And this makes it a really, really nasty drug to use. Um, Long-term use does result in psychosis. So, what does it do? It increases the heart rate. It yes, it does relax the muscles. It People who use it stand a risk of heart attack and stroke. And the reason for that is because it does increase the heart rate. Now, there are medical um, uh, advantages to it that is being researched into. So, people who have certain conditions where they have to fit, this drug has been shown to reduce those fits. But in those cases, I think our government and our drugs, the body that considers uh, the the approval of certain drugs for medical use is also considering this, and I think some people can get it in the oil form.
Mm.
Um, in terms of smoking it, it is a very very quick way of delivering it to the bloodstream. Uh, However, when such cases, I don't think the doctor is going to be advised, the NHS is going to be advising people to smoke it. It will be the oil they'll be asking people to use it. So that is probably the only advantage to it. So unless the person is a cancer patient that is terminal, or the person suffers from multiple sclerosis, or suffers some kind of fit as a result of a brain injury or brain defect or anything like that, there really shouldn't be there really shouldn't be an excuse to take this. Okay, wait. So also, in this, I decided to add this extra risk there, which is the risk of hepatitis B and HIV, and this is as a result of a lot of the drugs that have to be injected. So cocaine, crack cocaine, heroin, they could either be injected or could be sniffed. Anabolic steroids are usually injected. Um, and when anything where you have to use a needle, you stand a risk of because if you're an addict and you need that fix, last thing you're thinking of sometimes is safety. And this is the reason that when HIV first showed up, it did proliferate among drug users. So that is a very serious risk. So there's another law that came in 2016, and this concerns psychoactive drugs, and these are any drugs that have a psychoactive effect. In other words, you can get high on, whether it's something you eat or something you inject. And the whole idea is for any drug that does not fall into the category of the sections of the Misuse of Drugs 1971 Act uh, falls into this group of drugs. Now, well, I did say psychoactive drugs, so any psychoactive any psychoactive food does not fall into the category of it's good to make that clear. Nicotine, caffeine, and alcohol are all drugs. That's the truth. uh, the nicotine is highly addictive, so but it's not covered by this, so it's not so I'm just going to go very quickly. I'm aware of how not to awesome I'm doing with time, so I'm just going to go through the myths. uh People think drug addiction is a choice and usually the fault of the addict. This is not true. They are impact factors. They are genetic predispositions. There are some studies that show that some people uh, uh, have genes that make them susceptible to this.
Mm.
If you are being brought up in an environment of drug use, quite likely to end up in drug use. I mean, for heaven's sake, there are children who were born by um, addicted mothers, and some kids are born high, and where they now have to give them drugs to keep them alive because their body is used to that high.
Wow.
Yeah. So now imagine if later in life that child is exposed to drugs like this. Well, we don't know. Will their body remember? So they are. And then some people is trauma. People who have faced very, very, very serious, you know, trauma, you know, try to cope with using drugs. And of course, there's the influence. There's cases where you just hung with the wrong crowd and somebody says, try it. And of course, there's medication. A lot of people end up on, especially in America, end up in uh, on illicit drugs because they had to use painkillers and unfortunately got hooked on painkillers.
Mhm.
So another myth is that people who get addicted are weak-willed. This is not so true. There are people who are strong-willed who end up doing drugs because of some of the uh, points I have made. Um, there is a neurotransmitter. A neurotransmitter is a small molecule in the brain with which our bodies use to transmit signals between neurons. Neurons are cells that make up our brain, and it's uh, it is known that addiction has a very is got an effect on the level of serotonin, and this serotonin is what the body uses in regulating things like anxiety, mood, happiness, even things like wound healing. So it is a psychiatric disease.
Mm.
It is it is not one of those. It's got, you can be strong-willed as much as you can. Yeah, when it comes to this kind of drugs, they're just not. Uh, some people believe, yeah, tough love is what you need. Yeah, you just need to deal with it based on the circumstance. Most of the time, people who are addicts just need love and support and the help they can get. And it would depend on the circumstance. If you are the guardian, or the partner or the person who's in the position to help them, and you believe that cutting off the source of supply, which is the money they need to, is going to help, then so be it. Some people believe unless drug addicts get to rock bottom, hit rock bottom, they cannot be helped. That is not true. Before they hit rock bottom, before they get to a position where certain things are irreversible, get them help. Then this is something I already mentioned earlier. It is a behavioral problem. Well, it is definitely a disease, and it is not a behavioral problem. Some people are of the impression that, oh no, it's just people, it's just somebody misbehaving. No, it's not. It is a disease, and it should be treated as such. Prescription drugs are not addictive. So untrue. In fact, I heard a medical person, a nurse, told me, "Oh, the painkillers we give here are not addictive." It is so untrue. In fact, there's a painkiller that you get when the pain is really bad. It's called dioxycodone, or diamorphin, they call it. That drug is pure heroin. So basically, heroin is used as a painkiller. So that is the only difference, is you're getting it under controlled conditions. So long-term use, if you find yourself in long-term use of this painkillers, you can get addicted like anybody else. Vaping is not addictive. I'm sure everybody knows. Yeah, vaping is nicotine, and nicotine is the addictive component in cigarettes. So it is addictive. And a lot of people who go on to drugs start with cigarettes. So basically, vaping could be your way up too. So I'm just going to go through it. I'm just going to show you a few statistics here. And this is from the Office of National Statistics. And this is stats and the end June 2022. One in 11 adults between the age of 16 and 59. That number comes to 6 million adults have used drugs. Now, 3 million people, don't forget that we are in a country of 66 million. So that is definitely that is a big percentage of the population. So when you look at younger age, 16 to 24, 18.6% of that population, 1 in 5 adults within that age range, 1.1 million adults have used drugs. If you look at the right-hand side of your screen, so if you go back to the first stats, 1 in 11 adults. So 2.7% of this are class A drugs. So this 9.2% we're looking at here is all drugs. Class A, class B. But 2.7% is class A drugs. But this is June 2022. And then when you look at the younger age, 4.7% is class A drug. It is the year before it was higher as 3.4, 7 and 7.4. The explanation they gave for this is we were just coming out of the pandemic, and it probably had a reason for that. But it is very, very widespread. So more statistics, and I do apologize for this, so please do not get. I apologize in advance, so please do not get offended. White British adults or Black adults are more likely to use drugs more than Asian adults, so whether male or female. Now the next line is where you compare the same race, but the different genders. white British men are more likely to use the drugs than the female counterpart. And when you compare black female, or white other, they're more likely to use drugs than the Asian male, Asian female. And the only reason why I stated this stats is that we know that some ethnic groups tend to have more strong family backgrounds, and this does help with the ability to stay away from drugs. So whether we like it or not, whether we accept it or not, this is a fact. And so the ability to stay away from drugs, whether it's your child, whether it's your dependent, or getting off it, you will need family support together. So looking at parents, teachers, and communities, what are the things we should do? Like I said, I ended up targeting this towards parents. Your child's attitude to alcohol and drugs should come from you, period. If you're a non-drinker, to let your child know why you're not drinking. Don't forget that this is how it starts. Consider alcohol the first drug used to. So even when you're talking about drugs at home, whether it is cocaine, cannabis, your opinion of drugs is what your kids or your dependents take off. So it is very important to talk. Which goes to the next point. Talk with them about it. I use alcohol again as an example. Stands vary. Let them know what is your stand. So I attend a church where we don't believe in drinking. Okay, and there are reasons for it. You might be a Muslim, you attend a mosque, and to you it is haram. Let your child knows why it is haram. Don't let somebody out there tell them the reason why your belief is wrong. And if you're the kind of person who don't see anything wrong with drinking, then you need to teach your child the limits. But if you don't, somebody else will. And this is really, really important. So think of alcohol as the first drug your child will be exposed to. What are the other things to do? Get your children a bit more rounded. Help them in sports, hobbies, after school activities, church activities, whatsoever it is out there. Is it cadets? Is it, scouts, whatsoever it is. Let them get involved. Something they can do apart from staying at home and, gaming all the time. They have to be more well-rounded. Next thing, be vigilant. Who is your child hanging out with? When he or she goes, excuse me, please. Oh, sorry. When he or she goes out, where do they go? You should know. What kind of items do you find on them? If your child shows up at home with a new phone, and you did not buy that phone, you should be able to ask, where did you get that phone from? That could be a sign that something is wrong. They have a pair of trainers, and the trainers are expensive. You didn't buy them. My friend lent me, or I borrowed it from my friend, is not enough reason to walk away from finding out the reason why, because those could be your first signs. Cash that you didn't give to them. And then signs of drug use. Don't forget, first drugs, alcohol, cigarette, and vapes. If you have a 13-year-old with vape who's buying it because they shouldn't be able to have access to it, or have cigarette, so you should be vigilant. Okay? So I'm going to round up very quickly, and I will do this by talking very briefly on county lines. These are drug dealing gangs, and they are, when they say county lines, in the past it used to be physical geographic county lines, but now county lines also means phone lines. In other words, that criminal enterprise is controlled from a mobile phone and controlled across a county. Now, it's they target children as young as 7 to recruit. And why do they do that? Because a 7-year-old child is not likely to be stopped and searched. It's not likely to be arrested. I mean, if you are the kind of person that follows the news, there was a big hoo-ha because a 12-year-old was strip searched in the metropolitan police area, and the police had to apologize to the child's parents. But then nobody wants to find out exactly why the 12-year-old was searched. They must be looking for something, and there would have been a reason to stop it. So anyway, that so this is the reason why those people take advantage of this fact. They will children. Okay, it is believed that all illegal drugs in the UK go through this county line. They exploit children or even people, because it's not in the enterprise. They still have adults who take care of business. People who need money, who want to be part of a family, who want to be vulnerable. So if you don't create a family environment for your child, they will look for it outside. They're known to recruit over social media platforms. So just try and find out what your children are doing on Facebook, on Twitter, or Snapchat, whatever it is. If a child is too young to have a TikTok or an Instagram account, they are too young to have it. There are tools on the mobile phones that you can use if you have a child and you've given them a phone. I've got a daughter who's just turned 17. I gave her an Android phone, and I can look into that phone anytime I want to see what she's been up to, because the phone is still mine and she's still a dependent. So you should do the same. And what these people do is purely based on isolation and communication. In other words, they need to isolate them from you and be in constant communication from you. Yeah. Okay. So what do you need to do if you find yourself in this situation? Well, I try to reduce everything into 3 points. Create an environment at home where your children cannot be easily manipulated. Okay? Please make sure your children can speak to you. As much as possible, if you can't buy that thing that the child wants, let them know they can't have it and why they're not having it. Let them know when they're going to have it, if they are having it. And they should know that if they bring it from outside, from anybody, they are losing it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Create an environment at home where the child feels free to raise concerns, because somebody might approach them when they come across such things. They need to be able to be free to tell daddy or tell mommy. And if you come across such information, please, you find yourself in a situation like this, there is a very good website called Catch-22 that deals with all information relating to county lines, and they will tell you what to do. They will signpost you and help you. You can call Crime Stoppers. For instance, if the next door neighbor is the one that you suspect is a drug dealer and he tried to make friends with your child, call the police anonymously, the Crime Stoppers. You don't have to give them your details. Or dial 101 and tell them, I don't want you to give you my details, but I think my next door neighbor is a drug dealer. Okay.
Wow.
And with that, I would like to thank you very much for listening, and I hope you've found this useful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Niyi, for that. This has been so educative in terms of, and so revealing. And there were points when I was raising my eyebrows about some things you were saying there. Um, I'm sure many who have joined us today have never really had an education in terms of what all these drugs are. We hear the names and all that. And for those right through to all that you said about county lines and all that, even the issues relating to cannabis and all that. So let me establish a fact. Is the use of cannabis, apart from what you said, and it being given prescribed to people as a muscle relaxer, is it illegal?
I don't think I will need to check this out. I don't think the UK we've started prescribing it. I don't think
Okay.
doctors
Oh, we
even
haven't.
prescribe it.
Okay. Right.
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But it is known um, to work with um, uh, people, certain people,
Hmm.
especially conditions where they have fits, continuous fits.
Hmm.
I've forgotten what the condition it escapes me now, where people have uh, continuous. It escapes me now, but that condition,
Hmm.
um, the use of cannabis oil has been shown to control those um, those
Yes.
those fits.
Okay.
Um, it is still illegal.
Okay.
Even the oil, I believe it is still illegal.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
because don't forget the fact that you have the oil does not mean you cannot still abuse it. Because if
Hmm.
you have a cigarette, you can put the oil on the cigarette and smoke it, and
Hmm.
you're smoking cannabis.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Because what the oil is basically refined
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
THC, which is the active component of cannabis. So before we go on, there is a question here in the post, and somebody was saying, how can a parent look at a child's phone in real time? So
Hmm.
so nowadays, giving a child a phone is a safety thing, especially when they're going to secondary school. Both my children got their phones when they entered secondary school. Um, in my case, it was necessary for me to control how they use it for two reasons. One, you don't want them to spend too much time on it because of, they still have work to do. Their full time work is school, and then secondly, you don't want to take the phone off them when they misbehave because, trust me, I can't think of any more serious punishment of a teenager than taking away their phones. So you want to do so. So there are software you can get. So the one of them I used in those days is something called Kaspersky, which was
Hmm.
an antivirus. There's one for the phone, and what it does, it allows you to turn off the phone remotely, and also gives you a link, um, a report of what your child has been up to. So if your child spends so much time on TikTok, it could be a basis to chat. Dude, what are you doing on TikTok? 3 hours is too much in a day, you know. Um, you could help them by having a chat with them. Now that you have to pay for. However, there is one. Let me just have a look just to make sure. It's called Family Link.
Hmm. Family
And
link.
Family Link. And Family Link is Google based and it works on Android. It doesn't work too much. It doesn't work too well on a an iPhone.
Apple. You're right. Hmm.
However, it works okay if the parent's phone is Apple. That's
Hmm.
not a problem. But for it to work properly to get all the components of it, the child has to have an Android phone.
Hmm.
And there are quite a number of things you can do with it. It could tell you where your child is. Um, it will you could tell it will tell you what apps they have been on most of the time. It will give you like a statistics. It will tell you the days and how many hours they spent on their phones. Um, how
Right.
many time spent on YouTube. On So here I have I'm looking at my daughter's one. Tells me how long she spent on Instagram, TikTok, the web browser, Chrome, and it tells you a lot of things.
Mm.
And if it comes and when it comes to punishment, don't take the phone away from them because it is a safety thing. They need to be able to contact you all the time. So you lock the phone. So you just say, okay, um, why did you speak back at me, and why did you not do this when I asked you to do it? Okay, here's the punishment. You don't have access to your phone for a week, and you just lock it. So while it is locked, it will have they can still call you. You can still call them. They can still
Mm.
text you. You can still, but all the other apps are shut down.
Mm.
And then while it's locked, this app also gives you the opportunity to exempt certain apps
Mm.
because the schooling nowadays is different. Nowadays in class, the teacher says, "Okay, bring out your phones. I want you to Google this and tell me what the information is." Or you Google this, you Google that. That's how they work in class. They use their phones as long. So your child needs to have access. So sometimes you will lock the phone and leave Chrome on, or leave. I think what I normally leave on is WhatsApp because they have like a family a school homework thing that I don't want her to miss out
Interesting. Interesting. I have a few questions, if you don't mind, Dr. Nee, before you go. But I can see Sheila, whom you responded to, is asking, I presume she's talking about the children. Do they know you are looking or monitoring them?
on. Oh yeah, of course they do.
Mm.
So when my son is in university now.
Mm.
When I bought the phone for him, this is funny. Please, you can laugh if you want
Sure.
to. I made him sign a contract. And on the contract, I didn't do it for the second one because it was verbal. But on the yes, it is a contract, but sometimes you need to make really on the contract. I said the phone belongs to mom and dad,
Mm.
so we have the right to ask for it back. If I ask for your phone back, you will give me the password
Mm.
because the phone is mine. I will generally check to see what you're doing on the phone, and I retain the right to check. I ended up not checking as often as I threatened to because he's a boy. He wasn't always on the phone, unlike
Mm.
my daughter. But yes, they knew I was capable of checking.
Mm.
The
Awesome.
last yes, so yes, it's yes. I
Mm.
so years ago I was called to a house. A man I was on duty, and a man has just assaulted the daughter. So when I knocked on the door, the girl, 13-year old, 12 or 13-year old, said, "My dad slapped me 3 times and took away my phone, and and I can't remember what else." So I said, "Okay, sweetie, let's go get your phone." So I called dad out. "Dad, I understand you've taken her phone." He said, "Yes." "Okay, who bought the phone?" The girl said, "My dad." "Is it a monthly contract phone?" She said, "Yes." "Who pays the bill?" He said, "My dad." I said, "I'm sorry, sweetie. That phone belongs to your dad."
Mm.
Oh yeah. so it's let your children know that the phone is still yours,
Mm.
and
Mm.
that's not a problem.
Wow. 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 You and I were having a brief chat earlier, and then you were talking about, I mean, like when you go out on your duties and particularly in the cannabis area. First of all, the question I'd wanted to ask is, so where is this conception from outside of the UK? Maybe that's the best way to put it. That I know there's all this conversation as there's smoking of cannabis have certain effects, and I know you've said so. So is it that those in the developing countries had superior scientific information because when we're growing up, we all knew that when you smoke these things, it could lead to other stuff. Is it scientifically backed or is it just
Oh, it
perception?
is. It is scientifically backed,
Okay.
and I think it. I don't think cannabis use was common when we were growing up,
Mm,
and I say this because I was telling somebody recently that when I was a teenager, in fact pre-teenage, I remember jingles because I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. I remember jingles on the radio that warned people about smoking cannabis.
mm,
And it turned and the jingles said, in fact I still remember it. I can it's in Yoruba. I can recite it if you
mhm,
if need be. It said it turns people mad.
mm,
Now these people didn't have the studies we have now. Uh, some people have studied the effect of cannabis on neural pathways and in those days with, but the people doing those jingles just knew that John is known as a cannabis smoker. He has mental problems now.
mm,
Jackson, he used to smoke it too. Oh, he's half mad. Janet, ooh, we know how to smoke it. So it was based on pure stats, what the people
mm.
saw. The
Wow.
new people who used it ended up with mental problems.
Right.
Yeah. So when people say things, so this is the reason why you we're in a situation where there are countries who go the way of California, who remove, who make it legal. You can have it if you want to. Now, when you do that, what you've done is you remove the criminality about it.
Mm,
So you don't have gangs protecting their business.
mm,
You don't have to. It's not expensive. Anybody can go get it. But the downside of that is people who shouldn't be smoking now have, who normally wouldn't smoke it will now have access to it, and then you will now have mental issues you have to deal with in the future.
mm.
So that for the rest of us who still keep it as a criminal offense, we don't remove that criminality, but less people still smoke it, and the people who still smoke it do it in hiding,
Mm.
and hopefully we don't have to spend too much on the NHS in the future.
Right. Yeah.
So this is the reason why there are some people take make it legal. Some people don't.
Mm,
When you make it legal, you remove the criminality, but unfortunately, more people smoke it.
mm. Wow. Thank you so much for that, and especially the bits that I know some people have said the same thing in the chat about the wisdom of how parents should can deal with their children on different things. Don't take the phone away, just lock it. That's awesome. Right. I wanted to bring in a subject. You touched on it at a point when you were speaking there, and I know I read something pop up on my phone on my laptop 2 days ago relating to stop and search. Can you educate our audience specifically on this subject of stop and search? What is an individual's rights and what are maybe the police rights or what should be done when you have, because sometimes I see in the face of some of the younger people a certain animosity towards the police and all that. I'm befuddled because I think the police are there to protect people. Yes, I can understand sometimes in society there can be discrimination and all that stuff, but please help us here on this one.
Okay. So with stop and search, first I'd like to declare conflict of interest. I am a police officer. I believe in such a stop and search. And by the time I finish talking with you, you will understand the reason why I believe we don't do enough of it. Now, the way the law is you have certain laws that come with a component of stop and search. So, for instance, you have something called Section 1 of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984. And this law Then Section 1 allows a police officer to stop anybody who might have an offensive weapon or stolen items on them. So if somebody walks out of the shop and the store detective says he's got something from my store in his pocket, he hasn't paid for it. The police officer can stop on that basis and search them for that stolen item. That law allows them to do it. That law is also what allows somebody to be stopped and searched by police if somebody points again and says, I think he's got a knife. He has got a knife on him, and the police has the power to stop and search them to look for that knife. Now, I did mention when I started Misuse of Drugs Act 1971. Section 23 is what allows a police officer to stop and search a person to look for drugs. Now, in this country, we police with consent. In other words, everything the police does is ingrained in law. And all our policies with which we operate is also ingrained in the law. So if we do something out of it, it becomes illegal. So, so here are the rights of the person being stopped. Now, while I admit, because before even becoming a police officer, I have been stopped and searched before, and I don't remember it to being a pleasant experience, especially when they're looking for drugs and you've never even seen drugs before except for on TV. It could be disconcerting, it could be worrying. But here are the rights of the person. The police officer will stop you, but the police officer must tell you why they've stopped you. They will introduce themselves to you. They will give you your name, their name, and the department they came from. So it's not enough for them to say, I am from Metropolitan Police. They will say, I am from this station. Okay. Then they will say to you why they stopped you, but not only say why they stopped you, they will tell you what they're looking for. In other words, I am going to search you, but I'm looking for a stolen item. I am going to search you, I'm looking for drugs. I'm going to search you, I'm looking for weapons. Then the police officer will quote the law that allows them to search you, the law that gives them that power to search you. Okay? So everybody is entitled to that right. So after that, because we make a record of every stop and search, they have to inform you that you have access to that record, and this is how to access the record. In other words, after this search, I'm going to give you a reference number. That reference number gives you access to that record. And then, of course, they will detain you for the search. Now, all this is what makes that particular search legal. Because the way it works, if you don't do this, that search becomes illegal. And it really does not matter what you find. The defense can get it thrown out based on the fact that the search was illegal in the first place. So ideally, most officers, before they stop and search you, will almost be sure that they can find something on you. So people think police just do it. Yes, they used to. I think the Metropolitan Police were doing it for years. And what they would do in those days is they would suspect somebody. And they were doing it wrong. I've been in the police for over 20 years. And that is how I was trained initially. In other words, you cannot stop somebody based on information the police already have. So the fact that somebody has gone to jail and or is known for carrying knives does not mean I can stop him anytime I see him and search him for knives. I can't do that. Yes, that's the law. If I have new information, like I have a knife sticking out of his pocket, or one of his friends says, oh, I think he's got a knife on him. Or that guy walked past him, I think he's past me, he's got a knife on him. Member of the public says, then that's new information. But intel that I already know, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter whether he's gone to jail for carrying knives or drug dealing or that I cannot stop searching for. Okay, so what a lot of police officers were doing in the past where he's known. I'm sure I'll find a knife on him because I know he carries knife. He stabbed somebody last week, so they will stop and search him. They weren't supposed to do it, but they did it. So these criminals know that the racist police, some of them are doing it because they're racist. A racist police officer can't stop me anytime for no reason, and find. So some of them are finding it difficult to take knives with them because they know they can be stopped. So we're told to do it right and do it correctly. The criminals also know we can't stop them for no reason. So guess what happened?
They carry the stuff.
People that carry knives,
Mm.
and this is I know it sounds an unfair thing to say, but that is the truth. People who normally won't carry knife are now carrying it because they know they can't be stopped. So there's so many people out there who, when the fight starts, they will bring out a knife. But if there's no knife, there's no fight, but there are knives out there. I was speaking to Rex. We were talking earlier today, and I was telling you about how I stopped somebody because I saw him smoking cannabis, and I wanted to find out if he had more on him, so I know whether I'm arresting him for possession or and I found a knife on him. If he had got into a fight, he would have stabbed somebody because that's what the knife was there for. So, in my opinion, every mother should be advocating for more stop and search. Everyone. I don't think we're doing it enough. Because now we need an excuse to stop and search somebody. If we don't have that excuse, there's so many people out there who have knives on them who will never find out because they know as long as they don't do anything suspicious, we don't have the right to stop them.
Wow. Thank you for shedding some light on this, and I'm sure those who are watching and those who will watch later at least are better informed of what their individual rights are. Probably, I would say, I guess sometimes people panic and all that. Can you address, I mean, just in case for a parent who's a very um, disturbed or anxious about when their children go out. I've heard some parents say, "Oh, my son is not home. He's a black boy out there. He could easily be picked up and all that stuff." How should they behave if the police were to stop them, whether justifiably or unjustifiably? That will help calm everybody's nerves.
Yeah. So a while ago, I was invited to speak to some young people in TNT in church, and I this is how I explained it. If you are stopped by a police officer, first, it is not a pleasant experience, whether it is a justified stop or not. It is an infringement of a privacy. You don't want a stranger putting their hands in your pocket. It's not a good experience. However, they have a job to do. So, if you think of the guy doing the search as your dad who needs to have his job done, then you will give him a bit of respect and go, okay, yeah, I don't like what you're doing, but well, you got to do it. Do what you got to do and let's get on with it. Or think of him as that uncle who's your dad's friend or your friend's dad, somebody you should respect who's doing this thing, but you don't like what he's doing, but has to do it. Then you will give them that respect. Ideally, like I already said, the police officer will give you all this information. No one will come out of the blue and just start searching you. It doesn't work like that. We carry body cameras now, and everybody has mobile phones now. Last time I was searching somebody, people were filming it, and I said to the person, "I'm happy for you to film it because I'm filming it too." But if you just treat the police officer with a little bit of respect, it's not the time to get mouthy. If you think of them as doing their job, just get it done over with. Now, you might meet a few there once in a while that are not very nice. There's no point getting yourself into trouble by answering back.
Mhm.
Yeah, just let them search, let them carry on with what they're doing, and just finish the whole thing and let everybody go their separate ways. If you have something on you that you shouldn't have, then yes, maybe you should be worried.
Mm.
But
Okay.
if you don't, then don't. Um, in I know the one of the things that we talk about a lot of times is the color thing. Um, if you are a black person and if you're a police officer in Hackney, you're more likely to stop black people. If you're a police officer in in I don't know, in Tottenham, you're more likely to stop black people. But if you're a police officer in Cambridge, you're more likely to stop white people. So who the color of the people being, and of course there is a target audience. Let's not be silly here. The truth is there is a demography of people likely to carry knives. There is an age range. We know the age range, and this is the reason why they're always suspicious. And I go, oh yeah, you in the past when they just used to stop. That's the reason why they used to do that. Nowadays we have when there is a, a so in the town where I used to work some time ago, there were gang related fights, and we were told anybody in this particular age range in a group, we stop and search them. I stopped a group of black people, and I got accused of being racist. So there's no winning. So at the end of the day, just think of them as people who tell your children, think of them as people who have to do their job. Let them do the job. If their mates are being mouthy, don't join them.
Mm. Mm. Good advice. Real good advice indeed. Yes. Thank you so much. Dr. Nee, this has been a very enlightening and empowering session. I'm sure all our audience has really benefited from all the different things, the classifications of drugs that you gave, the effects of them, the issues related to even what may be called legal in one sense, but could be legal depending on misuse, the county lines, and parents, please take note and maybe the warning signs you give to be able to see what things may need to ask some questions, be very observant as a parent, and then of course this last issue on the stop and search, which I'm so pleased that you have really presented in a very balanced way. In your closing thoughts, my very last question to you would be: What would you, what are your hopes for the future in terms of reducing drug abuse and addiction and improving overall public health and safety?
Well, my hope for the future is we come to a place where this we're able to remove the criminality around it, and
Mm,
people who need the help are able to get it.
mm,
But you can only hope with this kind of situation,
mm,
because while you have, unfortunately, I'll try not to rant the police officers rant, things that causes frustration. While you have laws that allow uh, police officers to try and deal with this, like I mentioned, the stop and search and suspicion, and there's very little you can do. For instance, you can arrest people on suspicion, but you can't search on suspicion. We
mm,
were not allowed to do that. You have to have enough information.
mm,
And one of the ways to deal with this is to make it difficult for people to carry drugs. So in other words, if you're a drug dealer, you know, but unfortunately, criminals too have rights, so that's not going to happen. So there are teams in place that actually deal with this drug situation. You have teams whose job is to deal with the county lines. You have whole teams of detectives who are dealing with this. And the whole idea is to try and find the 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 kingpin, the
Mm,
the guy at the top.
mm,
What no one is after the 7-year-old who's just dealing small, or who's just carrying the message, or even the user. Ideally, is the head of the snake. And I must say, sometimes when you look at the details, it does feel like an uphill battle. But um, people are making headway because you do have a lot of these rings being smashed.
mm,
It brings me to the next thing. That is my hope. I would like to see a situation where it is kind of difficult for people to sell drugs, buy drugs, and just spread it out there.
mm,
What do we as citizens do when you have the information? Hand it in.
mm,
It is not ratting when you are protecting your community. Your child might be older and not subject to this kind of thing, but somebody else's child is.
yeah,
If you have the information, call anonymously. Say, I don't want to give you my name, but I think next door there's a drug dealer there. Or somebody told me that number 5 of this address, yeah, it's true.
mm,
I get that information all the time. People will come to me on the street and say, I think my neighbor is running a brothel, but
mm,
I don't want you to give anybody my details. So I take the
mhm,
information, and the information goes has something called intelligence, which somebody's going to sit down, sift, and see if it matches intel that they already have.
mm.
But this is the part we have to play
Right.
to protect ourselves as a whole.
Mm,
If if your child comes home and says, Matt says that his next door neighbor, ask Matt, ask Matt's address,
mm,
and go online and submit that intel report and say,
mm,
look, I got this information. I don't know if it is true, but we'll rather have that information and find out it's not true than not
mhm.
have it at all,
That's right.
because that information might be useful. This
Mm,
is sometimes how you find out if somebody is, if a terrorist is next door, or
mhm,
a drug dealer is next door, or somebody's running a brothel next door. Even if it's the fact that there's a house down your road, and there's so many cars that park there all the time. They're parking, getting something, and moving on. Parking, getting something, and you're wondering what's going on. If you think it's the drug dealing place, say,
mm,
because when you're doing that, you're protecting not only yourself, you're protecting your community.
mm. Right. Thank you so much. I know I did say it was the last question, but please allow me just to ask this. You find scenarios, because the focus has always been on drugs. I know there are other parts of police work that you do, but looking at the drugs, sometimes you see, oh, that boy was so innocent. He was on his having a great career ahead of him. Sometimes this is the case. The parents themselves did not know the kid was involved in something, and then that's one part of it. The other part of it is people get killed, unfortunately, in a place, but there's a culture of silence in neighborhoods. What can the police, you and your colleagues, do to win the confidence of people so that some people would probably want to talk, but they're too afraid that it may point back to them? Are there systems, rather than going to knock on people's doors? Nobody's going to talk if something is happening in a neighborhood. But do you have a system where you can get people through technology or whatever to be able to send you something and then it will be wiped off as anonymous or something like that?
Yeah. So one of the ways of doing it is what we're doing right now.
Right. Okay.
So you have we talk about this, and I pass you the information on what to do,
Okay.
which is, if you pick up the phone and you dial 101 and you say to the person on the other line, I'm giving you this information. I don't want my details attached to it. I want to be anonymous. They will not take those details.
Okay.
Okay. On the slide, I believe, so
Mhm.
it's the number for
You,
crime stoppers.
okay, right. That must have been the last slide. You
Yeah,
can you can
the
you can
second
put
to
it up.
last slide.
Okay.
There's a number for crime stoppers.
Okay.
That's usually anonymous.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
they. I don't think they have a way of getting your details.
Mm,
Having said that, when you call 101 or you see a police officer or or you go online and you go onto a portal and you give those details, you can tell the police that you want to remain anonymous
okay.
and they will respect your wishes because they we understand why you want to.
Mm, okay.
However, it is still important that you give your details. And the reason for this is very simple. This is what I say to people when people come up to me because I'm a beat officer. I'm the guy who wears a custodian hat and walks down up and down the town, and people stop to chat to and give information to. They say, I don't want to give you my details. But the truth
Mm,
is, sometimes somebody needs more information,
mm,
and they may want to get in touch with you. So I will say, give those details. Explain that you do not want your name near that intel information.
mm,
You want to remain in anonymous.
mm-hmm. Okay.
But, but sometimes somebody might need to get in touch with you because they want more information. And that's the only reason why it is important to give your name.
Right. Okay.
But yes, when you come across such people and they want to give information, just say, look, police are the good guys. That the job is to protect you, and we can't protect you if you don't protect yourself or you don't help us protect yourself. So if you are worried about um, information getting back to you, we will not put your name to it. And if you're in a situation where you don't trust that somebody will not make a mistake because it happened in Northern Ireland where information of all staff went online and all that. All you need is somebody make a silly mistake like that.
Mm,
And if yeah, give that information, but don't give your name.
okay.
Yeah, you can do that. You give that information, but the most important thing is give that information.
Mm,
If we do, there are people who have been arrested for offenses that are not related because they took the wrong turning and
mm,
didn't indicate, and the police officer is going, why didn't he indicate? Let me have a chat with him, only to find out that they're wanted for something.
mm,
There'll be no way of knowing that the person is wanted.
right.
So sometimes we just need that information. We need that information. So if you know people who are in that situation who have information, tell them to give it anonymously.
Wow, thank you. This has been a treasure trove of information. Thank you so much, audience. I believe you have all benefited. Please make sure you share this video with other people as well. There are families that have been directly or indirectly impacted by drugs, county line, stop and search, having issues with police and all that. Please share or this video with them as well, and also encourage them to subscribe to the channel.
So so
Dr.
so,
Nee,
so before
right?
you go, Sir, can I just
Yes.
respond to some
Okay, the Sheila's question there
so
is that the
there's
one?
before we go to that, there's a Adetola who says
Okay,
attitudes of some police officers during stop and search are terrible
right.
and
Okay.
uncivilized. Yes, that is true.
Mm,
I will not make excuses for police officers, but if your job involves dealing with criminals and people who are very disrespectful to you, you tend to end up tying everybody with the same brush. So
mm,
uh, I'm not making excuses, but this is one of the reasons why sometimes when you meet a police officer and they're not on these conditions, they're usually very aloof. not respectful sometimes because they are always being disrespected while they're doing their job. So
mm,
that is the reason why. And while I don't condone it,
mhm,
I can only understand it, and I want you to. And that's one of the reasons why. So um, there's so Sheila was saying the user can take you to the dealer if they are monitored to see where they are going. Yes, but it still comes out to if the user wants to help the police. Don't forget that the dealer is the user's source of drugs.
mm,
So most of the time, they don't want to help the police. So yes, if they're monitored, we can. And to be honest, no, very few people are, or very few forces are interested in the street dealer.
mm.
It is the guy that is uh, you know that is running the whole gang that we're interested in, and cut off the head of the snake, as the saying goes.
Yes, yes. Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Nee. Again, it's really been a pleasure having you join us today. I want to say thank you on behalf
You're
of our
welcome, sir.
audience as well. And should people need more information, I guess the numbers that you gave before should be okay for people um,
Yes,
to write.
if you send me an email,
Okay.
I've got a Gmail address.
Right.
I
Okay.
have a Gmail. You have my Gmail address.
Okay. Oh yeah, I'll put it in the description
Yeah,
afterwards for
yeah,
anybody who
yeah.
needs that.
So
Wow.
the Gmail
Thank you.
one, that's fine. I'm happy to reply to that. If you ask me questions I don't know, I can guarantee you I will find an answer and
Mm,
then get back to you.
mm.
That's the way it works. The world of information,
Okay.
But I will try my best to.
Right. Thank you so much for offering that. Thank you so much. Audience, please benefit from that. I'm going to put it in the chat right after the broadcast in the description. So please take it and use it to help some other family or individual. But thank you again. And audience, I want to say thank you for participating. And please get this video out there. Let it go viral. Let it impact homes, communities. Let's have better relationships between communities and the police. Thank you.